What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday Recap Podcast. This is episode 63, and we are honored to be here with my father, Pastor Wes.
Good morning. How's it going?
Good morning. How's it going? It's going good. This is your up for debate, but maybe 4 to 10 guest appearance on the podcast.
Approximately fifth.
You think that's fifth? I think that's probably accurate. It's probably around 5 or 6 times. But yes, being on the podcast, I'm excited to dive into this message on holiness. I would say that you are an expert on the topic of holiness.
Oh, yeah?
How about that?
What makes you an expert on something?
You do a continuing ed class. I mean, I feel like that's...
If you teach approximately 4 hours on it,
yes,
then...
if you do like... If you also approximately counter is twice on this podcast, let's keep that going. If we can keep that in the top right over here. But yeah, I feel like whoever does a continuing ed class or whatever, they're the expert on that field. I think locally, you know, none of us are scholars, but
sure,
you're a scholar amongst me and you as far as holiness goes. So I'm excited to get into this message because we've been in this why series talking about the whys behind everything. Because I love asking why, because it's really good. I talked about this when Pastor Bunk was on, because he also loves the why question. Because if we're not constantly asking why, then we'll find ourselves doing something that is no longer relevant. And it's not even like it's no longer relevant of the thing that we're doing, but it's no longer relevant to us. It's just a habit. Mm-hmm. And there's no depth in it and things like that. What do you think about always checking the why on things?
Sure, I think that's important. I think that, there's a level of obedience in your life, which is always good. Mm-hmm. I think that most of the time people just, take things for face value and then they just go with it. And so I think that that's always a good thing. Yeah. It's never good to always question everything and you make no movement in your life.
Right.
However, always keeping that also, keeping those two simultaneously. Mm-hmm. Being obedient, not overly questioning that it makes you stagnant or it makes you, desensitizes you. Yeah. However, always carrying the why also, so you can reevaluate and move forward.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that you're right, because the other thing is that like you're constantly asking why. It's like, I trust nothing anymore. And it's like, well, the Lord really relies on a lot of trust with us too, because there's time and time again in the Bible, he's asked people to do something and they're like, no way, and not to really, I want to say this correctly, because it says, certain things that it's like, test me on this, mm-hmm. right? And there's certain things it's like, don't question me on this, sure. So there's a little bit of a balance of like being able to, like you're saying, be obedient, but also, know the why and what you're doing. And I think, being able to discern between which one is really being Holy Spirit led in that moment too. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so really what we've been going through, and actually I remember you doing a class on this a couple of years ago, the sacraments, mm-hmm. but really we've been going through a lot of sacraments at the beginning, like the whys behind those, but now it's kind of like the why behind like a lot of buzzwords in the Bible and like a lot of topics and things like that. So this one, not necessarily a sacrament, but the word holiness, understanding holiness. Like I said, that was your class that you spoke on, probably maybe a year ago at this point, something like that, doing a continuing ed class on it. And so every time that we've been doing these podcasts about these why messages over the past, 6 to 8 weeks, I like asking the speaker on why it's like personal to them. Like, why are you the one preaching on holiness? Like what happened with you? For example, your communion message that you did a couple of weeks ago, that was a result of a revelation that you had on communion because so much time taking communion every day for a season that you feel like the Lord asked you to do. Mm-hmm. And so for holiness, I guess we can maybe go back to even before that continuing ed class too. Maybe there was a time then that made you go, I'd like to do holiness this time. What is it that draws you to that word, to that topic?
Actually, the last piece of communion, I actually think the Lord took me on a journey of communion to find the revelation on holy. Okay. Because it wasn't until the last piece, the Lord, when he started talking to me about communion, he first started talking to me about the table. Yeah. Then he talked to me about the bread. Then he talked to me about the blood. And it was when I was deep diving into all of the aspects of the blood that he gave me a revelation on the reason why the blood was so important. The blood was so important because it was holy.
Yeah.
And when I arrived there is when the Lord gave me the revelation on holy, which then opened up I had a lot of thoughts and a lot of seasons of my life that had a texture to them that I really couldn't like define, and I really couldn't understand why they were the way they were.
Yeah.
However, when the Lord finally gave me the revelation on the holy and the holiness, that was the texture which actually defined those seasons of my life.
Yeah.
So it actually gave me a great, not only revelation in the moment here, but it made me understood a lot of the past seasons of my life that were brought into question.
Yeah, actually, I remember that. I remember during your communion class, one of the days talking about holiness, and you even, and I like as you're saying, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that was kind of the seed planted, because I think whatever that day was, you spoke about kind of how you open up the service this Sunday, talking about like John in heaven opening up the scroll in that moment, and so yeah, I think that that your personal tie to holiness, I really, really enjoy it, because you're very passionate about it when you speak too, and I love like how the Bible does like so good at having like vivid storytelling moments. It makes me emotional a lot of times. Even songs, we did Forever on Sunday. I think me and you might agree that it's our favorite worship song of all time.
One of the best.
So good. I love Forever. But even that, like I was, Amanda, my wife, she was like, man, I was crying during that opening verse of Forever, because it's so descriptive. The moon and stars, they wept, morning sun was dead. Like it talks about like, the moment that Jesus was on the cross. And I think the same thing with this story that John tells. Like I get goosebumps while you were speaking about it on Sunday, just being like, describing this moment, like really it feels like all hope is lost, and really I think that's really what the Bible's conveying. Like in heaven, it's like, man, like all hope, was lost. And like, you can take that to like so many different times personally in your life. And I think that's like there's times in your life where all hope was lost, and that that you've got yourself in a situation, or you're the victim of another situation or whatever it is. And like, there's nothing on this world that can like really, really help you.
Sure.
But then an angel comes to you and goes, why are you crying? Behold, look on the throne. Like, oh man, I get jacked up. Like I get hype on that, because I mean, it's so good. And in the magnitude of that word, I like how you spoke on Sunday about us desensitizing ourselves to a lot of these words, especially a lot of the things in the Bible, especially a lot of, even Yahweh, the concept of Yahweh, like this thing that you would like breathe and not really even say, because God's name's so powerful, but now I think we live in a world where we're desensitized to so many things,
100%,
even more. What do you think about that, about being desensitized to these words in the Bible, and then you just us as a whole in society, the desensitization, whatever that word is, desensitization maybe on just things in general?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I don't think that we, the Bible is such a complex, mysterious book. And so many of the concepts inside of it aren't 2026 related. So it's hard for us to even, sit down and read the scriptures and be like, how does this apply to my everyday life?
Yeah.
So that's hard in itself.
Right.
But so many of the different terms and different things that are in the Bible, we don't take enough time to like really understand and dive into them. So we just like brush over like, oh yeah, I totally know what that means. And it's like, okay, then tell me. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It sounds really good though.
Yeah.
It sounds really good when we go, holy are you, Lord. Like something inside of me like feels that. And it's like, that's true, because you're singing scripture and your spirit man is lining up with that scripture.
Yeah.
Even though you can't understand it with your mind, your spirit man's going, I like that.
Yeah.
And it's like, for some reason I like that. And it's like, well, if you understood why you like that, it would actually like draw you closer to that.
Yeah.
So it would just be a deepening of that idea.
Yeah.
Especially desensitization in 2026 is a really, really big deal.
Yeah.
And even in this topic of holiness, it's a really big deal. I think that something that's been lost that has been a part of previous generations. Let me preface what I'm about to say with there's always a pendulum swing.
Right.
So if you take what I'm about to say and you make it just an extreme one-way thing, it's going to feel extreme.
Yeah.
However, simultaneously, if you swing the other way in extreme, you're going to miss it too.
Yeah.
It's the ability to hold all things in your hands open-handedly and bring them all together and go, this will be a full thought when we bring all of the parameters to it.
Right.
However, so many times we like land on one thought and we like run it into the ground, you know? And that's what I love about Jesus. It says Jesus was full of grace and truth simultaneously.
Right.
And so many times it feels like we have to be extreme. We're either going to be all truth, no grace, or all grace, no truth.
Right.
And Jesus always carried the perfect balance.
Yes.
You know, and something I think about all the time that is a concept that God always has and always understands that it's really hard for us as human beings to understand is that God is the Alpha and the Omega. He knows the beginning from the end simultaneously as he is present with you.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that again.
Yeah.
Jesus he says, I am the Alpha and the Omega. I am the beginning and the end. Jesus was in the beginning at Genesis 1. He is at the end. Simultaneously, he understands how to be present with you in a moment and interact with you in a moment. And he simultaneously makes you feel like he's in that moment with you.
Right.
Here's an example. When he's walking on the road to Emmaus with the two disciples, and they're like, he's a resurrected Jesus.
Yeah.
He's the one they're talking about.
Yeah.
But he's talking to them like he's not that guy.
Yeah.
And he's like, so what are y'all up to? And they're like, you don't know?
Yeah.
And he's like being present with them in that moment.
Right.
While simultaneously, he already knew that moment was going to happen. He knows what the next moment was going to happen. He knows what the next moment's going to happen.
It's almost like he's in there. He's in that moment with them. And for us, if we were that guy, we would not deem those people worthy to walk with us on a road.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he was simultaneously present with them in that moment, interacting with them like he's in this moment while simultaneously knowing all moments.
Yeah.
Here's another example. It just blows my mind is Lazarus. Jesus knew walking up to the tomb, Lazarus was already going to walk out of that tomb. While simultaneously, when Mary and everybody's falling at his feet, he's sympathizing and having compassion with them to the extent of he's crying with them as they have no idea what's going to happen in the next 20 minutes.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy.
And so that's a wild concept.
I mean, when we put ourselves in those situations, we walk up like, guys.
Sure. Yeah. I wouldn't have done that at all. I was like, hey, everybody stop crying?
Yeah.
Look,
just
watch.
Peep this.
Yeah.
You'd be like, come on.
But Jesus could be with you simultaneously in this moment.
Yeah.
Knowing what the next moment was already.
Yeah.
That's a wild thing.
Yes.
You know? And so that's really hard for us as humans to understand. And so we try to interact with Jesus that way.
Yeah.
And so that's a piece of the holy, right? He exists outside of space and time, and he like comes into our space and time and interacts with us as we are in space and time, as if he's in space and time, though he's actually not in space and time.
Right.
That was really confusing. But I think that's a concept that you really have to understand as you start unpacking God and Jesus in their interactions with them.
Yeah.
That's what I was kind of saying on Sunday. If you don't take this holy attribute of God into consideration as you're navigating any part of this, as you're trying to navigate with a being that exists outside of space and time, if you don't take that into consideration, if you're being honest with yourself, you're trying to interact with you that's a little bit smarter than you. You're like, I need to interact with Jesus. I believe Jesus is pretty much me and thinks like me and kind of acts like me, but he's just a smidge smarter than me. So that's kind of who I'm looking for. And it's like, if we're being honest, that's who we're actually looking for most of the time. Like the extra bump here in my life. It's like, okay, I kind of got these things figured out. I just need that extra bump. I need the guy that can give me the extra little nugget that's going to push me over the edge.
Yeah.
I need the guy that's going to like, I got this bill coming up and it's about $1,000. I need this dude who's going to like just put this extra $1,000 in my bank account. And it's like, that's kind of short-sighting the entire thing.
Right.
It's putting you in a box and Jesus in a box, because if you understood the God that you serve and the God that's on your side, God, I need an extra $1,000. Like he exists outside of space and time. God, give me wisdom to make me financially free. What a much more amazing prayer to pray.
Right.
Than like, I just got to get through tomorrow.
Right.
I just got to get through,
Yeah. Yeah, I think that like you said, we completely put things in our terms and what we understand, and unfortunately that like in a lot of ways takes a lot of the power and value away that God actually has,
Sure.
In our lives.
Sure.
And I think that like you're saying, we have to be able to like hold in open hands that he does so much more and is so much more capable of what we think that he is, and always keeping that at the forefront of our minds. Yeah, that the concept of somebody that's a little bit smarter than me is, I mean, like, truthfully, I do think that we look at it a lot of the times like that, know, and I don't think that we mean to, and I don't think that it's like we just think that this guy's a little bit, but like we try to make it always in our terms, you know, when our God is this timeless God,
Right.
I think even Pastor James spoke on that the Sunday before about him just being outside of space and time, and that concept's extremely hard for us. Like you were saying, there's so many concepts in the Bible that are so hard for us that we just chalk it up to and attach it to something familiar in our lives.
Sure.
Instead of looking at this as like this is a bigger concept than I'm aware of.
Right.
And like you're saying, doing that same thing with holiness. It was funny when you just spoke earlier, you said something, you're like, I'm going to say it again. You said it to the second power, which in the scriptures, truly, truly, I say to you, means that you need to listen up. But this concept of saying it to the third power, right? This holy, 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 the song that we sing forever, in heaven. Maybe you can, paint that picture again about this word and the emphasis on the third power and why that is like why that is a point of it. I like, in the message you were kind of talking about, and you just said it really quick, but this idea of the scriptures not having like punctuation, things like that. Maybe talk about that for a second.
Yeah. So when the scriptures were written, if you look at like an ancient scroll or something, like I don't remember when hey, could you pull that up? When we put in verses and chapters in the scriptures, that isn't that's new. Right. And so if you look at an ancient scroll, it's just like words on a page just in a row. And so there was no punctuation, it's just you just read it like that. And so, but when they wanted to bring emphasis to something, they would say words in certain sequences, different things like that. And so, when the Bible talks about the second power and things like that, is when they bring words, they say it twice. So it's like what I was talking about. Verily, verily, I say to you, or truly, truly, this is a thing, and it's very stern. It's a very stern, hey, this is super important.
Right.
You know, even that time that with Mary and Martha, when Jesus said, Martha, Martha, you are so worried.
Yeah.
In that time, that was so offensive. You know, we like to think Jesus was like, Martha, Martha.
Yeah.
It was more like, Martha, Martha, you know?
Yeah.
And Martha had just denounced Mary and said, hey, can you tell my sister? Not even like, hey, could you tell Mary?
Yeah.
She was so mad at Mary that she like denounced her.
Yeah.
It's just like the same thing in the prodigal son story. Yeah. He's like, your son over there. It's like, that's your brother, you know? You're so angry that you detached.
It reminds me of Adam too. Like the wife that you gave me.
Yeah.
You know?
Don't even call him by name. Like that's how mad I am, you know? And so when Jesus says, Martha, Martha, calling somebody by their name like that, that's like, it's the equivalent of 2026 when somebody calls you your middle name. Like, I'm in so much trouble
my mom
right
says
now.
My middle name, it's over. Yeah. It's wraps.
You're in so much trouble. Yeah. And then bring it to the second power. Yeah. He was making that into a moment because Martha was unhinged a little bit. Yeah. If you're so upset that you like detach from your family lineage and talk to them in third person, you're pretty unhinged. Yeah. And it's not even talking to her. Yeah. Like it's like going to like, you know, it's like me and my classmate are like in a little quarrel, and then I'm like, I don't know, I'll just go like, hey teacher, can you tell him? You know, it's like I'm right next to you. Yeah. So it's a stern saying. Right there, which is hard for us to understand because it's, you know, we're not in the Bible times.
They're different
or in that
terms.
culture. Yeah. And so with the Lord bringing this, the heaven song being holy, 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 is of great significance. Yeah. I didn't touch on this on Sunday. Yeah. I was meant to, but I kind of skimmed over it. We trust this piece more than we can ever understand. We're banking so much of our life on the holy aspect of God. It's interesting because we try to play both sides of it. Yeah. We don't want God to uphold his word when it benefits us. Yeah. We don't want God to uphold his words when it doesn't benefit us, though. So we want him to uphold his words when it benefits us. Yeah. We don't want him to uphold his words when it doesn't benefit us. Yeah. So we want God to be without error, to not lie, to not be able to go against his own word, to have no evil inside of him when it benefits us. Yeah. Here's an example of when this benefits us. God holds the universes in his hand. It would be, we would live a totally different existence on this planet if God had even a speck, the tiniest speck of evil inside of him. Think about that. If God was, you know, because when you think about like even in Greek mythology and stuff. Yes. The gods have this extreme power, but they're crazy a little bit, and they're like fear-based. And so it's like Zeus at this current second could just like throw a lightning bolt at me and I'm dead. Yeah. And it's like, God can't do that. Yeah. Even though if you looked at scriptures, like if you just pulled out a random scripture without context and it would say something like God wiped all of humanity off of the grid with water, you know, you'd be like, well, isn't that the same thing? It's not actually the same thing if you understood God in his full context. But in Greek mythology, it is like that. Yeah, they have a measure of evil inside them. And they're like, I'm just mad and I just throw stuff. Yeah. Or God can't do that. Because if God could do that, we would live such a more fear-based, right? Because we'd be sitting there like, God could just squish us right now. He's like, he's holding the universe like this. He's like, I'm just mad at them. Squish, you know? So God doesn't do that, you know? However, we like that part when it benefits us. Yeah. We don't like God being like that when it doesn't benefit us. Here's an example. Is God laid out to Moses exactly how we were to worship him, how we were to steward his presence, how we were to set up the temple, the types of offerings that he'll accept, the types of worship that he'll accept, all of it. He's laid out the whole kit for Moses and said, for this to work, you have to interact with me this way. Mm-hmm. He says, now go tell Aaron how to do that and make sure everybody follows suit.
Yeah.
So Moses does. He goes and teaches Aaron, hey, this is how we're going to worship God, right. Everything. This is how we're going to steward the ark. This is how we're going to steward the presence.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you can die.
Yeah.
And so go tell Aaron, go tell your sons. So he goes and tells his sons, lays it all out. One day it says Aaron's sons go into the temple and they offer up unworthy worship to God, and God strikes them dead. God strikes them dead.
Yeah.
And Aaron freaks out and goes to Moses and goes, Moses, what is happening?
Yeah.
Why would God do that? And you know what Moses says about it? Moses goes, didn't God do exactly what he said he was going to do?
Mm-hmm.
Didn't God do exactly what he said he was going to do?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's messed up. Like, what part of that's messed up? What part of this did God not uphold his side?
Right.
Because God can't lie. He can't go against his word.
Yeah.
He couldn't have just went, okay, I told you all these commandments, all this stuff to do, and you just didn't follow it. Let's just change the rules. It's just so, you know what I mean? Like,
right.
God can't do that.
Right.
And like, you like that part when it benefits you.
Yeah.
You don't like that part when it doesn't benefit you.
Yeah.
You know? And, because, and you could look at that like God's being cruel or like God's just doing exactly what he said he was going to do.
Yeah.
And he can't go, he has no error inside of him.
Yeah. And he clearly sets, the standard.
Yeah.
And I like that passage too, because it's like afterwards, like it says like, Aaron falls silent, because I think because I think at that time, and I think we can all testify to this in our own lives. Like, he's full of emotion, and he's, and he's like, feels like that he, in his life, where it wasn't right, it wasn't clear.
Sure.
We can even read that and be like, oh God,
sure.
Aaron's doing, like, he's your boy. He's, one of the high priests.
Sure.
And yeah, he just falls silent, because I think after a while he's like, all right, you're right. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, there's really nothing to say to that.
Right.
But it goes back to it goes back to holiness, and it goes back to what we were kind of talking about at the beginning of hold it. You have to hold both things simultaneously.
Yeah.
Because there is, so that's truth, right? And there is a measure of grace given to us.
Yeah.
And, I heard this guy teaching on holiness and the holy nature of God and stuff. And he said this, he was like, when does it break over? When does it go from being graceful to truth and truth to graceful? And he said it really breaks over in your expectation. And in your expectation. And if you're honest with yourself and you really are looking at it, what you're wanting is unmerited favor. You're wanting just to bend the rules a little bit. Just give me a little more slack, or whatever that is. And like, God always extends that in his mercy. Mm-hmm. However, there's a part where you feel like you're entitled to it. You feel like you're entitled to it now. And that entitlement piece gets us every single time. Mm-hmm. Every single time. Because we feel like we're entitled to God's mercy. Mm-hmm. We're entitled to it. And if you're not careful and you live a life that you feel like you're entitled to God's mercy, it's a slippery slope of it's a slippery slope in the idea that you'll never hold the standard because you're not actually walking at it anymore because you're like, it's no big deal. It's just, and there's a measure. It says we're to worship God in awe and reverence. And those are really important things, awe and reverence. And especially in society these days, we have very little reverence for like anything. I think it's one of the undercurrents of society that's like really we've pulled the rug out of being reverent of anything. Right. And reverence is so important as being able to see the Lord clearly. You may have heard it said like this. The fear of the Lord, the fear of the Lord characteristic in your life is the peace that the byproduct is reverence. And it says the beginning of knowledge and the beginning of wisdom in your life is the fear of the Lord. Right. And having a healthy measure of the fear of the Lord in your life is always important to being able to see him rightly. Right. And in 2026, we've really been on the pendulum swing of like, it's all good. Everything's cool. Everything's chill. Where we like present God as our friend. Do you know this guy? He's super slack. Like he's chill. He's okay with everything. And unfortunately, though there is a characteristic of God that's measured that way, you could even like pull out little scriptures, be like, see. He's a chill dude. Yeah. If you don't hold simultaneously that he sits on a throne and his eyes are fire, it always scares me when people say, when I get to heaven, I'm going to let God have it. I'm going to get up there and bro, there's lightning and thunder and the literal pillars of the place are shaking and trembling at the glory of God. There's these crazy looking creature things screeching, holy, 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 as everybody's just like falling on the ground and like throwing everything at his feet. And like your perception here is you're about to kick open the door of heaven and walk in there like something and about to let the Lord have it. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's a level of entitled thinking of God that keeps your perspective of him and your ability to carry holiness and the holy attribute of God into your life for you to be, do you see him rightly and see your life rightly? I believe that keeps a lid on it pretty good. Yeah. Because but it's like dealt in that idea of entitlement. You know?
I mean, it's an extreme, the biggest extreme of people making comments to like celebrities or sports players. Like and then the person walks up like, "Hey, I heard your comment." You're like, "Oh, I didn't mean any of that." You know what I mean? Like immediately takes it back. Yeah. But it's the most extreme version of that. Right. Yeah. Right.
And I heard our person talk about this one time. And he was a professor. He was teaching on where's the line? Where are you expecting grace more than you're deserving in it? And he said he was a professor at a class. He said there was about 250 people in that class. It was a college class. Yeah. He said and we had a paper due every month. And he said, okay, paper's due. And he said on the due date came. He said there was about 20 people that didn't turn in their paper. He's like, "Whoa, man! Hey, why don't you turn the paper?" And the professor was like, "Oh, please give me, give me a couple extra days." The student said this. "Give me a couple extra days. So I'm sorry, professor. This things came up." And he was like, "Okay, well, I'll give you 3 extra days. Just have it turned in." And they said, "Oh, thank you so much." He said, the next month, about 40 people didn't have their papers turned in. And he was like, what? Y'all knew this was the deadline?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, Professor. It was homecoming week and da-da-da-da-da. Please, Professor, give us some mercy here. And he's like, all right, listen, I'll give you 3 extra days. Just have it turned in. He said, when I said that, they thought I could have made Professor of the Year. They were chanting my name in the hallways.
Yeah.
All this stuff. They were like, yo, Sabe, yeah, Professor. He said the next month I walked in when that paper was due. And people were walking in so nonchalantly. Mm-hmm. He was like, and about 70 people didn't have their papers. Mm-hmm. And he goes, whoa, guys, hey, what's going on here? What's going on? And they were like, Profess, man, you know what's going on here. You're the chill, cool guy.
Yeah.
Like, bro, you know we'll have it turned in. He's like, no, like 70 of y'all haven't turned it in. Like, this is a problem. The deadline is today. And he's like, bro, well, we know you're not going to hold that line. Come on, man. You're the cool guy. We were like chanting your name. He was like, oh, no, wait a minute. All y'all get zeros. And they're like, what? What?
Right.
He's like, yeah, no, all y'all get zeros. Everybody gets a 0. And he's like, why? He was like, because I told you, if you didn't have your paper turned in by this day, you got a 0. Mm-hmm. And then they're like, and he goes, I said that, and everybody started tripping out. And somebody from the back goes, hey, that's not fair. And he goes, wait a minute. Who just said that's not fair? Are you saying this isn't fair? Like, I gave you grace like 3 times ago, and you're saying this isn't fair now? He's like, no, I'm actually just giving you exactly what I told you I was going to give you.
Yeah.
You're the one who came in today expecting it before it happened.
Yeah.
You expected it even before it happened. Mm-hmm. And because you felt like you were entitled to it, you felt like, oh no, like it doesn't act like you sat the day before this and already decided the fate.
You were getting grace.
You were getting grace.
Yep.
You were already like, no, he's going to give me grace already. Mm-hmm. So I don't even have to try now. Mm-hmm. He's like, that's the part where we all messed up.
Yep.
He's like, and that's the part of us that we all have to sit with.
Yep.
That's the part where where's the part inside of ourself where grace and truth aren't matching? Yeah. It's right there at that expectation.
Yeah.
Where you've already decided and you've been the judge of how much grace you're going to get.
Yeah.
You've been the judge of the day.
Yeah.
And you've been the judge already of what God's going to do or not going to do.
Yep.
And when your expectation of that doesn't line up with what you get, you're going, hey, God, you're not being fair. And he's like, at what point am I not being fair?
Yeah.
At what point did I not uphold my end of this thing?
Yeah.
My thing is the standard right here.
Yes.
And like you just going, forget the standard. Forget this. God's going to give it to us. And it's like, maybe, just maybe, you know, that the person teaching on that said this. He goes, when we were in the garden, God said, if we eat of that tree, we die.
Yep.
And he goes, theologians and stuff, though we've like known now and we kind of whatever, we're filling in a big gap of mystery of going, he meant spiritual death, not literal death. He goes, but what if he actually meant literal death?
Right.
What if in that moment when Adam and Eve sinned, he could have went, you know what? This whole humanity choosing love thing isn't going to work out. I'll just terminate it right now. He could have done that. He goes, but maybe, just maybe, in that moment, God gave us mercy. And from that moment on, all we've ever known and ever lived in is the mercy of God. And he was like, and if we ever lose sight of that, it's going to skew us into this place where we're never going to understand God and really the grandeur of him. And we're never going to rise and be the people that we're called to be, because we're always going to live in this place of entitled grace, entitled mercy, and believing that God has to give it to us, and it's afforded to us. And then when both of those expectations don't line up, we're actually like those kids with the professor going, God's not fair. What's up with God? Why and where'd God go? Whatever. And it's like, man, that's our lens at which we have to contend against at all times.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking fair, thank God things aren't fair in our eyes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The way that what we determine as fair is truthfully, we should have been dead a long time ago. Each one of us.
100%.
Is it fair that the one who knew no sin became sin, right?
100%.
That he was on that cross taking that for us.
Yeah.
Because if things are fair, we'd be up there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so this idea of God sticking true to his word, right? Like you're saying, we benefit from that in so many ways.
So many ways.
His holiness, you know, I like that you described it as like, you know, the sun, the brightest thing that we know, has dark spots in it. Right. God being holy has zero, the most blinding light that we'll ever see, you know, pure holiness. He is true to his word, right? And the concept of things being fair, like, that's what you're saying. It started with this mercy, and we've been living in it ever since.
All we live in is mercy. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what Jesus was literally saying.
Yeah.
He was like, you have to understand, you know, it's like that story in the scriptures where this guy, this servant has a debt that is owed to this king, and he is brought before that king.
Yeah.
And it equates to like $4 trillion. Like, and he's a servant.
Yeah.
And like the way Jesus presents it in the story is he's trying to get you to understand that like there is a servant. He's not even another king.
Yeah.
Who owes a debt to a king.
Yeah.
At the tune of $4 trillion.
Yeah.
So he's trying to get you to see like, there's no way at which this servant has any way to pay back this debt.
Yeah.
I need you to understand that in the story. Like in those times, that's what he was trying to get across. Like that would be like the equivalent of now of like, you know, somebody working, you know, a very low paying job and owing somebody right now $4 trillion.
Right.
And somebody coming to him and going, I want what you owe me now.
Yeah.
You know, that's like in 2026 terms.
Yeah.
And the guy going with a very, very low paying job goes, just give me a little more time. I'll get you your money.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, there's no way that he's going to do this. He doesn't even have the capacity to make this kind of money. Right. So the whole story feels very outlandish.
Yeah.
And Jesus is trying to present it as outlandish. Like, right. Can you see that there's no way the servant can pay back this debt?
Yeah.
However, in this mercy of the king, they're both coming to the conclusion right now. The servant is going, just give me a little more time. And the king's like, for real, bro? And he's like, yeah, I can't do it. But what did the king promise? I'm gonna take you into captivity. I'm gonna take your wife, your kids, everything you know, and you're all gonna be slaves. And he's like, please don't do this to me. I know that's what I'm owed, but please don't do it to me. And the king goes, you know what? I won't. I won't only not do that and not hold the debt over your head for the rest of your life. I'm actually going to clear the debt. I'm actually going to clear the debt. And so like, not only am I just going to give you more time, I won't even ask more time of you. I'll just clear the debt and we're just even.
Yeah.
You know, think of like the weight that would come off that servant. Think of all the things that would come off that servant.
Yes.
And then it says, he walks out and sees a dude. So he just owed a debt to somebody for $4 trillion. And he walks outside and sees a dude who owes him $50. $50. and goes to him and is like, I need my money, and starts strangling the guy, like strangling him to give him his money, and was like willing to kill him to get his money. And it said the king got word of that and brought him back in.
Yeah.
It was like, how could you?
Yeah.
How could you, knowing the great debt that you were just paid for, go out there and ask anything of anybody else?
Right.
How could you do that?
Yeah.
How could you be that short-sighted?
Yeah.
You know what? I'm bringing it all back now. You know? But it's where we get in our life. We lose sight of the mercy of God that we live in, and we like expect stuff, and we feel like we're owed stuff. And it's like the Lord has given us all things. And that's why it says in the scriptures, it's like to love God, like, and to love other people, you have to firstly understand how much he loves you and how much he has forgiven you and how much like mercy he's given you.
Yeah.
And that's why it says in the scripture, and even in the Lord's Prayer, Lord, forgive me as I forgive others.
Yeah.
You know, and it says in there, you're going to be forgiven at the measure you forgive others. Why? Because if we ever lose sight of
the great deal that we got,
of the great gift we've given and the great things that happen for it, it skews us, man. It skews us so hard. We get into some crazy places.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that a constant reminder of that is never something that's too much for us. You know, a constant reminder of the scope of what God has done for us, you know, in his, like you said, his mercy. And, you know, it's funny, even like trying to like put real terms on that story that Jesus is telling, because it's just like, if you actually try to do like, even the debt, the actual, like, we're trying to tell you $1 trillion, like, could you even wrap your head around that? Cause guess what? It's probably bigger, you know what I mean? In our circumstance, but yeah, truthfully, that just being, something that we're reminded of, you know, every single day.
100%. And you know, we're going to be reminded of it in heaven. Yeah. Here's the amazing thing. Is when we get to heaven, we're going to get heavenly bodies. Yeah. We're going to get heavenly bodies. They're going to be new. They're going to be, you know, people question them and stuff. I think it's going to be, you know, Jesus was the prototype. It's going to be a measure like the way that Jesus came back in resurrection. Because like he looked different, but when he would talk and he would interact with somebody, at some point they'd be like, oh, it's you. So he looked similar to where he was, but like enough different that you wouldn't know, you know? And, you know, there's lots of theories on that. But you know, so we'll have these perfect bodies. There won't be any hurt, pain, anything anymore, but there'll be one person, one body in heaven that will be scarred. There will be one body in heaven that will bear all the marks, all the holes. Jesus himself. He's going to sit on the throne with scars, holes in his hands, all of this stuff, scars on his brow from the crown of thorns. Why? For exactly what we're talking about right now. That when we look at the throne, we never forget the price that was paid for it. That's powerful. Jesus is going to sit on the throne and he's going to look like a lamb that was slain. And it's like, why? It's like, because at some point you could be sitting there and you could forget. Never let us forget. Never let us forget that the price that was paid to get into heaven was because of that man right there who bore it all. All those scars, all that stuff I deserve. Thank God I didn't, you know? And like, that's so beautiful. Yeah. Such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, you know, this message in general just gives such good insight. You know, I think everyone has to go on their own personal journey, obviously, on really trying to like understanding the holiness, you know? And then obviously too, applying it to their life, seeing it in their everyday life, looking forward and things like that. You know? And so I think that this is just a I like all good messages are an invitation for us to really take our own personal dive onto that, and really, and like, obviously do your own research, but like look and see like, all the different areas of your life that God presents himself as holy, and how many times that you can going forward, like recognize that and worship him for that,
Sure. Yeah, for sure. Well, and this is something I want to touch on just a little deeper with our talk here is like everything that we basically talked about right now is in the lane of righteousness. Okay? The holy characteristic of God that paid the price for us to be in right standing with him, and that's the righteousness piece of our Christianity. However, the powerful piece of it is the walking out of holiness in our life that brings the healing and the restoration to our life. And, it's something we talked about a little bit earlier, but that entitlement of that leads you to not walk towards holiness because you're like, what does it really matter? God's going to give me grace tomorrow. What does it really matter? And it's this perpetual cycle that you put yourself in. And I just want to talk to that just for a few minutes because might step on some toes here, but I think it's really, really important. Me and you talk about this as you're my son, and I've talked through this with you more than a few times. Now, the prior generation, like I said, was a pendulum swing over here. However, when I was growing up, there was a emphasis on holiness and purity culture. Okay. Now, when you hear this purity culture thing now, you look that up, it's pretty wild. Now, I'm not advocating for whatever, but the leaders were always pushing holiness in our life and pushing purity in our life. And we had some really big leaders growing up that were like real influential, like, next guys up, in influential of teenagers, that were like going after holiness in their life and going after purity in their life. We had some young ladies in the movement that were in some like worship teams and different stuff like that. I know this sounds crazy, but they would like wear like turtlenecks and like full gowns, and they would be like, nobody looks at us, like in a sexual way or stuff like that because we're set apart for our husbands. And like, they were like talking like that. And there were guys in the movement that were like, no, we're walking towards holiness. We're thinking pure thoughts. We're going towards the Lord. You know what I mean? And they were very influential, and they made you want to chase that.
Yeah.
And it set a standard,
Yeah.
And I would love to tell you that I could find people like that, and we would talk about this, just like, at our house and stuff as like you were navigating being a young Christ follower and like, what does it mean to be a teenager and like all this stuff. And you would throw names of people that were in the space of like, calling like speaking about Jesus and stuff. And, I'm not saying any names. I'm not doing anything, but we would have conversations about like, oh no, like, I know that guy's like saying Jesus, but he's not walking towards holiness in his life at all, And like, it was really deconstructing the idea of walking towards holiness and walking towards purity in your life. And it was that slow decline, God's going to give us grace. God's going to, and about that time, like the heavy grace movement has come online and stuff like that. And like, I'm pro grace, 100%, all the way. However, if it's not a measure of truth with that, and it's not taken into the way that it's presented in the scriptures at its root, it sends you down a very a slope of just making compromise in your life, and not only everybody's making compromise in your life. However, there's a difference between I know the standard and I need to go towards it, than like, it's all good. It's just to this. Yeah. It's just to that. It's just to whatever. And it's like the moment you say that is the moment you're sliding into a place of great compromise in your life that the Lord is not asking you to walk towards. He's asking you to walk towards Him daily. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we need to bring some more attention to that piece.
Yeah.
Because as I sit and navigate conversations with people in their life, every area of their life that they have great frustration about, or it's destructive in their life, is directly correlated to this topic right here. They either don't have anybody around them that would show them the line or show them the standard, or they're at a place where they're like, standards are control, and grace this, and God loves me, whatever, and they're like filling with excuses that'll slide them into that.
Yeah.
And then like all that's coming is destruction.
Yeah.
That's all that's coming.
Yeah.
And then they're frustrated when the destruction happens, and they're like, Lord, quick, help me. And it's like, what part of this did God not uphold his end of the deal?
Yeah.
Because it says in the scriptures, if you do this, this happens.
Yeah.
It's like, that one time he like bailed me out. It's like, that was the swift hand of the mercy of God.
Yeah.
Thank God for the mercy of God coming in and swiftly coming in sometimes.
Yeah.
But like, you actually are like looking at it like you're owed the mercy of God.
Right.
It's like, wait a minute, hang on. We have like officially slipped.
Yeah.
Slipped here.
Yeah. Yeah. Being able to expect the truth and the standards that God set every time. And when he does extend his grace and mercy, you're grateful for it and see it as grace and mercy, not as the standard.
Right.
Expecting the truth. And also, I just want to clarify, when we were talking growing up about this, that was a time in pop culture where Jesus's name was a big highlight, and that was great. But it was all these people saying it like, celebrities, rappers, different things like that, saying it and then not having also still compromising and saying these other things in the exact same song or whatever it is, it's like, how could those both be in the same song,
Sure.
But yeah. And what you're saying, like that big grace movement of having, Jesus loves me and he forgives me and for everything that I've done, but not also walking out the truth that he equally asks you to walk out as well.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So many times in the scriptures, and we like pass over this piece.
Yeah.
Jesus will meet somebody exactly where they are.
Yeah.
But then quickly after that, he goes, hey man, I need you to go and sin no more.
Right.
I need you to stop doing the thing that you're doing. I bailed you out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you needed this. I just met it.
Yeah.
Now I need you to do this. And we like skip that part. And it's like, he's always going to show up. He's always going to whatever. And it's like, maybe there's a piece of it that he actually wants to bring you healing on.
Yeah.
Because like you're doing that sin in your life and you're doing that thing in your life and it's directly correlated with a fractured piece of your soul.
Yeah.
He actually wants to heal that piece of you.
Yeah.
The swift mercy of God comes in very mysteriously, and it's uncalculated, and it must be that way for the mystery of God. But like when you're sitting, most of the time, if you're honest with yourself, you're waiting for the next swift come through. You're not really actually trying to walk out holiness. You're like, I kind of just want to do what I want to do and like him bail me out. It's really what you're, it's like, no, he like bailed you out that one time, but he wants you to be aware that like, that was really what was like happening to you. And he's giving you some swift mercy here. Now let's fix the thing.
Yep.
And it's like, I kind of don't want to do that because I don't want to actually want to change.
Yeah.
How about you just like fix it again?
Yeah.
you know?
Right. Yeah. And that's really the difference between, being able to actually actively pursue holiness.
For sure.
Taking that and making that something that you are not just accepting, but you are moving towards.
100%. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was saying on Sunday. Oh, that's the gift.
Yeah.
That it is. So many times people are like, oh, rules, all this, all that. No, like it says when Moses was read, your heart was hardened towards it. You couldn't hear the scriptures. Mm-hmm. But when you became enlightened to God, he unveiled your heart and you can now receive the scriptures. Mm-hmm. How beautiful is that?
Yeah.
Like inside of the scriptures is life and life more abundantly.
Yeah.
But it's different than you think.
Yeah.
Like it's seeds that get planted into the soul and into your soul that grow and they start healing those fractured pieces of your soul that you can live out the scriptures right now. But it's a process.
Right.
Watchman Nee does a book called Sit, Walk, Stand. Mm-hmm. And it's going through Ephesians. And the first thing you have to understand is justification. Justification based on holiness it's not your performance. It's you don't get righteousness because of your performance. You rest in his performance and you're justified by Jesus's performance to be in right standing with God.
Yeah.
And that's the first part of the book. But the second part of the book is sanctification.
Yeah.
It's a process of walking out holiness in your life.
Right.
It's the process of understanding that your life, the areas of your life do not line up with the kingdom of God and his word, only lead to destruction and frustration in your life.
Yeah.
And God and the Holy Spirit wants to come alongside you and reveal those pieces to you to heal you.
Yeah.
In those areas.
Right.
And that's how you're going to get healing in your life, is being able to heal your heart and heal your soul.
Yeah.
But so many times we think of healing as physical healing. And we're like, I don't need, does anybody need healing in their life? They're like, well, no, everything feels
healthy.
pretty good here.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, when when God presents, I am the healer to the children of Israel, it's from the stance of healing their soul. God first delivers them out of Egypt and goes, I am your deliverer. This is who I am. And then it says the people of children of Israel were so oppressed. They were so bitter. They were so hurt. They were complaining, whining. It said they came to the place of Mara, which is the place of bitterness. And they're like, we can't drink this water. This is, and God's like, no, he was like, I'm Jehovah Rapha, the healer. I want to heal your soul.
Yeah.
And it said, throw this wood into the water and the water will become sweet again. And he was like, I want to make your souls whole so that you feel sweet again, but you're so bitter inside of yourself. It wasn't even actually from a place of physical healing. Yeah. It said when they walked out of Israel, they were all in good health, and they'd actually ransacked Egypt, and the Egyptians were just handing them gold and stuff to get out. Yeah. There was so they were all healed, and they all had money walking out of here. Yeah. So when he said Jehovah Rapha, he wasn't actually going, hey, does anybody have any physical ailments that need? Yeah. He's like, no, I need to heal y'all's soul.
Right.
And that's the process that God wants to take us through. Well, so many times we're like, okay, God wants to save us, and then us get other people saved. And it's like, yes, kind of. The first thing he wants to do is to get you saved, you to understand that you are, and him heal you from the inside so you can go outside and help other people.
That's good.
But that process is walking out holiness.
Right.
That process is walking out sanctification. But we don't catch that part. We don't catch that part.
Yeah.
And we walk through life very broken because we're deceived by what social media, don't let anybody tell you what to do through this reverence slope decline, through this, the way this great, it's so many, it's like a perfect storm. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, what it is is us not walking out holiness in our life. And we lost that ability, like I said, to be godlike. It says in Romans, it says, when God let them out of their hand and left them to their own ways, it said they just started worshiping animals and acting like animals. Like us, without the godly aspect of our life, we act very primal. Just whatever emotion we're feeling, we go out on that thing. We're just like very, very, very primal in our actions, and you can feel that in society, but it's our ability to come back to our godlike nature and understand it. Understand the scriptures and let them go down into us, unless we can restore God-likeness right now. We can live it out on this earth right now. And it's done through holiness. It's such a gift.
Yes, so good. So good. The concept of holiness, I think that we all grow a little bit closer to being able to grasp that in our lives. So thank you so much for coming on, Pastor Wes, and sharing with us. Hopefully you guys are able to, same deal, be able to get a little bit closer to the idea of the holiness and the grandeur of God, and that we really hold that word reverent and hold him reverent. So
for sure,
thank you so much for sitting with us.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you guys for watching, and we will see y'all next week. If you want to check out full messages, you can find us at LS Church on all podcast platforms, and you can watch full services with worship at LS Church Alvin on YouTube.